Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Self-Made Mastery. I am your host, Adrienne Finch, and I want to cry literally because it has been so long since I've gotten to say that, and coming back to this podcast will probably be the single greatest source of fulfillment in my life going forward. I am so happy to be here. Oh my God. Okay, I have so much to fill you in on, so here's how today's episode is going to go. First of all, welcome back. So excited. So we're going to start with a little update as to where I've been, what's been going on, and how it pertains to where we're going with self-made mastery. Because I don't want to harp too much on the negative things that, have been going on in my life that have stopped me from doing this for so long. But at the same time, I want to really explain because I think there are so many positive lessons in there, and I always like to keep it real with you guys. So in typical Adrienne fashion, in future episodes I will be touching on some of those setbacks that I experienced recently and how I got over them, because I feel like it's always useful there. And then really the rest of this episode is going to be dedicated to reacquainting everyone a little bit with what it is that we do here, the magic that is this podcast, and the transformation you can expect to see in your mindset and in your entire being throughout our journey together. I think we can all agree it's been far, far, far too long since a new episode has come out. I don't even want to talk about it, and I'm so excited to change that. But first, let's remind ourselves why we're here. Let's get re-energized and refocused and really open ourselves up in preparation for what's to come, shall we? Okay, but before I ramble too much, let's roll the intro music. You're listening to the Self-Made Mastery Podcast, your ultimate guide to total transformation. I'm your host, Adrienne Finch, and I believe wholeheartedly that anyone from any background can create and live their dream life. And the best part is, you only need one thing to start: your mind. So join me here every Wednesday on this transformative journey to master your mindset and unlock your greatest potential. Let's go! All right. Wasn't that nice to hear? It's been so long. Also, I re-recorded that so that the audio quality was way better. I just noticed in listening back to my old episodes that the quality was just not that good, but we're here making it better. Oh, also on that note, check out the new podcast art. It's not too different. We're going with the same colors and branding, but I felt like it needed a slightly more professional look. So here we are. Let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we're doing this. We're jumping right in. This episode shouldn't be too long. Like I said, I mostly want to get reacquainted and gear up for what's to come. Famous last words, of course, but I'll try to keep it brief. And of course, most importantly, you guys, I want to thank you so much for being here, for sticking around, for being patient with me while I navigated one of the harder chapters of my life. And to everyone that sent me a message telling me how much the podcast has helped you, you are the reason I am here. I love this seriously more than anything I have ever done. And you guys show me proof every single day that I'm supposed to be doing this. So thank you. I appreciate you more than you know. My Instagram DMs are always open. I may take a minute sometimes to reply, but I always read them and take your feedback and ideas into account when shaping the future of this show. So if you aren't already following Self-Made Mastery Pod on IG, not my personal, well, okay, you can follow my personal if you want, but where I'm talking about being way better about DMs is on the Self-Made Mastery Podcast Instagram. So it's just at Self-Made Mastery Pod. Feel free to follow if you aren't already and you want to. I'm also planning some really fun bite-sized kind of lessons and snippets that will live over there. So it'll be a great time. All right, so diving right into where I've been. It is update time, y'all. Where the heck have I been? Obviously, so much has happened between March 2021 and now, but for the sake of time and my ADHD, we're not going to go through everything, but I do just want to kind of give you an update on what the heck has happened. We're starting fresh here. So if you remember in early 2021, I launched my membership actually over on Patreon, and I was basically just so ready to lean fully into self-made mastery and be able to help you guys in deeper, more meaningful ways than just the podcast episodes. And I worked so long and hard to craft exactly what that could look like, and I was so happy with the result when I launched it. We had, I think, 26 members right out the gate. And those couple of months I spent on Patreon getting to know you guys on a personal level and like teaching workshops and having virtual happy hours, it was so rewarding, seriously, and taught me so much. Unfortunately, though, I hit an unexpected roadblock around that same time. So I started experiencing like terrible throat aches and pain, which made it hard to talk for extended periods of time. And it turned out I actually had damaged my vocal cords significantly, which caused a ton of discomfort and also like disrupted my work as I'm sure you can imagine, since everything I do for work pretty much involves me talking, and sometimes for hours at a time, especially like we were all virtual at that point. So meetings and workshops and just everything, you're like yelling at a computer thinking you need to be super loud, and you don't always need to be super loud. But long story short, they weren't entirely sure where the damage came from, whether I had just like overworked my voice or whether I had specifically injured my vocal cords by yelling too loud once. But they did say that they had an influx of patients during the pandemic because, again, when everything became virtual, like everyone's just yelling at their computers and thinking they need to be way louder. I'm also still kind of convinced that COVID might have caused scarring underneath my vocal cords because, I've been talking this much my whole life and nothing has ever happened. So I don't really know. But anyway, in order to let my vocal cords properly heal, I enrolled in speech therapy and had basically no choice but to pause every part of my work that involved talking so that I could avoid needing surgery or having long-term damage, because that was for sure not what I was trying to deal with. So that in itself was a long and hard 6 months of speech therapy. It was very rewarding though, obviously, but it was challenging, stopping doing the things that I loved every day. And I don't need to get into it too much, but I will say I never expected to be away from the podcast for as long as I was, for that long at all, let alone a year and a half. Gosh. Yeah, that's really long. But luckily, speech therapy did work. I will never be fully healed, but therapy basically retrained my brain to use the muscles and my vocal cords properly when I speak now. So I'm a lot less at risk for feeling discomfort, which means I can do my job, which is awesome. It's honestly very relevant to like the things that we teach here, which is like how we can rewire our mindset and just all the stuff that happens subconsciously that we're not aware of. In a weird way, this like showed me even further how much that works, because I didn't think like, oh, breathe this way when you're talking. I literally just did these exercises that like trained my brain subconsciously to do that without me really being aware of it. It was so strange, but very cool. So that was that. And then there was something else at play too, though, and it was something mentally, I think, because the rest of 2021 for me was just honestly absolute garbage. If we're going to keep it real here, it felt like it kept just getting worse and worse. And of course, like being so aware of manifestation and how negative feedback loops work the same way as positive ones wasn't helping me at all. Like I knew that I was just making it worse by like having a bad attitude, but it's like I couldn't stop. It was just so much toxic, like negative energy coming from my own brain. It just felt very, very off. So like basically after the 6 months of speech therapy, every time I went to start the podcast up again, I just couldn't. It felt like I was moving through molasses, which if anyone out there has ADD or ADHD and is not medicated or used to not be medicated, it's a very similar feeling. You feel like your brain is literally like moving in slow motion. Like even the most basic things and tasks just feel extremely hard. So I was like experiencing that all the time. I felt super foggy all the time. My ADHD felt like it was like getting in the way of things again, because essentially that's how you feel when, if you haven't learned coping mechanisms or if you're not medicated, is like everything feels extremely hard. And so I felt like that again, which is obviously very disappointing. It made it hard to even take like the first steps towards launching it again. And it had been so much time off. And on top of that, I just felt like I had a harder time controlling my emotions. Like I literally went to the doctor because I felt like something was wrong with like my hormones or vitamins or I don't even know what, but I just felt like it was so unlike me. I felt completely not in control of my emotions. And I was also dealing with other random like physical health issues that kept popping up. And, it was just like not a great time and not fun. And I feel like it would have been hard to come on here and preach all of these amazing mindset strategies when for once in my life, I was having trouble using them myself. And I know we're all human. Of course, I'm going to have off days, and that's fine. And it doesn't mean I can't host an episode because I feel shitty that one particular day, right? But I don't know, something about how I was feeling then just felt too inauthentic to record. It's like how you need to fill your own cup before you fill others. I was just like not in a mental state good enough to be able to help you guys master your own mental state. You know what I mean? And, again, it's like I'm going to have bad days and I'll still be able to record a podcast, but this was just like a ginormous chunk of time where I felt completely off my game. So, it's not that I was like hiding away. I really didn't feel like I could genuinely help in a moment when I needed help. That's kind of a better way to put it, I think. And on top of all of that, I think it turned into this vicious cycle. And here's where I could see it unraveling and just happening right in front of me, because like we know these logical things. We know why this stuff happens because we've been studying, the brain and the mindset. And so it's like I was watching all of this unfold, and it was creating this negative feedback loop because I was starting to have anxiety about having left the podcast without much of a warning or explanation. I think I told you guys, like, I have vocal issues right now. I'm in speech therapy, but there was no, end in sight. There was no plan. I didn't say, stay tuned. I just kind of like left. And that gave me so much anxiety. Just the idea that I had just left the podcast, kind of stranded people with no explanation. That's the last thing I ever want to do. And so, but then like, instead of just coming on here and telling you guys what was going on, I just avoided it more and more and more, which led to more anxiety about not telling you and more avoiding. It was like this cycle that was just so bad. And I think I was also so scared of starting it up again and then having to pause again because my voice would start hurting. I think it was really hard for me to, actually, it always has just been hard for me to like go in without kind of a plan, just because I have honestly this limiting belief often that I've been prone to having about myself, which is that like I don't follow through, and that leads to people not being able to count on me or trust me when I say I'm going to do something. And obviously it's more complicated than that and not entirely true, which is why it's a toxic and limiting belief. And I think as a business owner and as someone who is their own boss, like I'm often changing my mind about projects I want to do. So let's say I decide I'm going to do a series on Instagram, and then I do it a couple times and I'm like, you know what, actually I don't want to do this series. I think it's not going to work the way that I thought. I don't like it. Like you can do a lot of trial and error as an entrepreneur because you're not really doing tasks like for someone else. You're basically deciding what you want to do. And I think because of that, there were often times in the beginning, because I didn't kind of know this yet, where I would like promise things to the audience and then change my mind, and it kind of would let people down. And then I sort of tried to like stop promising things, but then you also sort of want this accountability where you want to promise things and you want people to have expectations, but then you also like need the freedom to be able to change those decisions. So it's just, that's something that like entrepreneurs, I think, kind of go through, is like, how do you, hold yourself accountable and promise certain things so that your audience knows what they're getting, but also how do you keep it realistic where if you need a break, you can take a break and people don't, think they can't count on you. So I don't know if anyone actually can't count on me or if that's just a limiting belief I had, but I think that was also just contributing because I was so scared to start again and then just be in pain and have to pause again. I would feel like it's a wasted effort and everyone would be disappointed and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so basically all in all, like for the first time in my life, I just felt totally frozen and kind of crippled with the anxiety of coming back only to leave again. And yet at the same time, every day that went by not doing the podcast was making me feel lost beyond belief, unfulfilled, unaccomplished, which led to more anxiety and just more like being down on myself and just like not feeling like me. Because honestly, this podcast gives me so much of like my identity. It makes me feel so fulfilled. I feel like this is what I'm meant to do. So like not having that for so long just made me kind of have an identity crisis and just be totally lost. So, yeah, in hindsight, it's, it's kind of like, what the hell, Adrienne, that was like the worst mindset you could have had, right? But in the moment, I just remember feeling like every emotion was so heightened and like nothing I could tell myself would make it stop feeling so strongly. It's like my brain was telling me all the logical things that I know to be true, like just start, they'll understand if you have to quit again. But for some reason, I was still frozen. So, longer story, longer than expected, my apologies. There was a lot going on with me physically and mentally, and I just didn't feel equipped to handle it like I usually had. Most of the other 28 years of my life, I had felt equipped. And I suddenly didn't, which, as you can imagine, was a very scary feeling. Feeling in control and then feeling completely out of control with literally no explanation or logic to wrap your head around. And I'm supposed to be like the mindset queen, right? So yeah, it was very humbling, let me tell you that. But the good news is I've been working on it every day for the last like probably 4 months. And each week I've gotten closer and closer to feeling like myself again, which is awesome. And this daunting idea of getting back into the self-made mastery mindset and jumping back into this business slowly started seeming like less scary until I was actually able to start taking baby steps towards it. So if you had seen back on May 4th, I think, I announced on Instagram that the podcast is indeed coming back, which was a huge step for me to put out there and to commit to, and honestly made me really excited though. And though it's been a slow process, it was worth waiting until I was 100% ready to jump in because, I want to commit. I want to show up week after week and really feel like ready to go and not overwhelmed and anxious. And let me tell you, these last couple weeks, I've jumped fully in and have never been happier. Like, even when I announced it was coming back, I was still like not fully ready, but I had at least put it out there, which meant I needed to like kickstart myself into at least taking the first steps. And I have, and now I feel like fully, I've jumped back in. I've reviewed my old episodes. I've done so much. Like, I've created these foundational pillars that I feel like every topic kind of falls under so we can get more organized about like all of these elements of mindset mastery. I created that new logo, and this whole process has almost been the thing to revive me the most. So heck yeah, claps for that. And I just do want to say too that if there's anything positive that's come out of this time away, and of course there always are, right? We've talked about silver linings. There are always things to look at that are positive for you. Every single thing can give you a lesson or, help you grow. So for me, if there's anything positive that came out of this time away, it's that I was just saying, like coming back with an extremely clear vision of the broader picture of each pillar of total transformation that, falls under this self-made mastery kind of thing. And by mastering the different elements of these pillars of mindset mastery, or working towards mastery, a little bit every single day, we are able to unlock our full potential and start truly owning our lives and our futures and our happiness and our success and so on. So I just feel so extremely clear in terms of what all of this means and what, it all connects to mean and what it can mean for our futures. So I'm very, very, very excited. That totally brings us back to the heart of self-made mastery, what it is that we're doing here and what we are going to get out of the work that we put in every day here. So it's time now to kind of, refamiliarize ourselves with what is this? What are we doing? And how is it going to go going forward? So, as I always say, I believe wholeheartedly that anyone from any background can create and live their dream life, and that we truly only need one tool to do that, our own mind. And the mind is a very, very powerful muscle. And every year that I've studied it, I become more and more fascinated and in love, honestly. We are able to mold our minds in ways that you would like never think is possible, seriously. And not just in a woo-woo way, like in a legitimate scientific, has been tested and proven kind of way. And I love that because as you guys know, like I'm a very logical person, but I also completely know that belief and the subconscious has so much to do with it. So I'm kind of coming at all of this from both a scientific and a, faith, I guess, based, not like religion, but just spiritual and scientific way, which I think can relate to a lot of people because some of us just need that logic, and that's totally fine. So just as a reminder, I'm here on this podcast and on this earth really to demystify a lot of what's out there about brain hacking and mindset training and self-improvement, and really just simplify all the noise that exists. And then the goal is always to package the teachings and strategies that I find into extremely absorbable and easy to understand episodes. Those of you that have been around since the start know that this podcast is very action oriented, meaning I want you to be able to have direct, actionable takeaways that you can think about or do literally today to begin taking the first steps towards fulfillment and success. So, we can dive so deep on any one of these topics, and we will, but it's important to break it up so that every step feels practical and easy to apply immediately. And I think that's my favorite part of the podcast, is just being able to know that like every single episode can help you. Even if you have missed all of them and you listen to one, you will be helped, you will have action items, and you can take steps towards improvement today. And my goal for you, of course, is also that you leave every episode feeling inspired, motivated, informed, and most of all, empowered to get out there and create your own success, because it is possible for anyone, anywhere in the world, no matter how old you are, how much money or resources you do or don't have, how busy you are, etc. Your only job is to believe that it's possible. And we're working towards training and eventually mastering this positive mindset, right? And it's important to know that your mindset doesn't change the nature of a shitty situation, okay? Having a positive mindset changes you, like fundamentally, which changes your ability to deal with shitty situations and changes your perception of shitty situations and eliminates the limiting beliefs that experiencing a shitty situation often causes you to form about yourself or about the world. And over time, those shitty situations will seem so unshitty that you'll be wondering whether they're even shitty at all. Okay, I'm done saying shitty, sorry. But you know what I mean? Yes, okay. This whole thing is changing you. All of this is possible within you. You are capable and possible. You are capable and able to become the best version of yourself. Whoever you want to be is possible. You just have to believe it and start applying this work every single day. So yes, that is what we're here to do, you guys. Work every day towards becoming the best versions of ourselves so that we can glide through life with ease and confidence and genuine joy. That's the goal here. Like, the reason that we do all of this is so that life can feel easy and awesome and fun. And like, yes, life is hard sometimes, but doing all of this and just, unlocking your greatest potential in terms of who you are and how you handle things and how you see the world allows life to just feel awesome and easy, even through the hard stuff. And that kind of goes, hand in hand with what my biggest piece of advice is, which is to enjoy the journey. Never stop working on this. Okay, don't look towards some finite end goal, because that goal will always change and you'll never be satisfied as long as you live. I can guarantee you that. So instead, make these practices a part of your daily lifestyle, right? You'll notice so much positive change so quickly. And over time, repetition after repetition, this way of thinking will become a part of you. You won't have to consciously think about any of it anymore. It'll just become automatic, the way you handle challenges and the way you see the world. And I've done this in so many areas. It is absolutely incredible to watch your brain transform. It is insane. It's like one thing to hear, experts say, oh yeah, this is the science, this is what happens. When you actually experience that transformation yourself, it is so unbelievably incredible. And I have now, I'm always testing these strategies and these tactics, and everything that I talk about on this podcast, I apply to my own life. And I will tell you, there are certain things that just stick with me to this day of like, holy crap, I can't believe I tricked my mind into doing this thing that I hate and now actually loving it. Like, never in my life did I think I would love it, and I do. And I hacked my brain, and like, that's amazing. We are capable of so much. So I'm really, really excited for your journey. That just about wraps up this little update episode, honestly. Just getting back into it. So I'm sorry if it was, I don't even know what this sounded like because it's been so long, but it'll get better and better. And just a reminder that the podcast will go live every single Wednesday. I do want to build up to creating multiple episodes a week because there's so much that I want to talk about. And I want to keep the episodes like a little bit shorter, like more towards the 30-minute mark, and have more of them rather than having them be super long. But it all just depends on what I'm teaching that day and all of that. But I'm going to start with just the Wednesday for now. We're going to start, manageable and then work our way up from there. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Tell your friends about it. If there's anyone that you think forgot about it, remind them that it is back. And follow the Instagram at selfmademasterypod if you aren't already. Also, I'm going to figure out a way to categorize episodes for you guys. I'm not sure if you can do that on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or like if I'll make a website to do it or just do it on Instagram. But I basically want you guys to easily be able to find a playlist of all the episodes that include, manifestation or episodes that touch on habits. Like, I want to be able to kind of tag episodes with different, key elements from the pillars of mindset mastery and have you easily be able to like binge a playlist that all have to do with manifestation or whatever else. Let me know if you have any suggestions for that, because I'm not entirely positive the best way to do that, but that is something that I want to work on figuring out so that it can be super easy for you guys to enjoy the podcast. And as always, please, especially since we're back, go over on the Instagram. Let me know if you have any suggestions for topics, if you have any suggestions for how I can make this better and more useful. I am always open to it. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait. I literally have been so happy waking up every day, writing episodes, working on this. I cannot wait for what's to come. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch ya on the next episode. Bye-bye.